Hello, my name is Oscar Fire, and today we are talking about the book of Boba Fett. I don't really want to talk about the book of Boba Fett because it's just going to be a lot of disappointment. There's going to be a lot of disappointment, a lot of frustration, a lot of sadness. Because the book of Boba Fett was disappointing. Because I don't really understand what they were going for with it. At the end of the day, I don't understand what they were going for with it. Because you would think, on the surface, and after the end of The Mandalorian Season 2, you would think, and my glasses are dirty, don't mind me, but you would think that the book of Boba Fett would be all about Boba Fett being a badass, basically. It seems like the natural direction you would take it in, and as a story, you think it would make complete sense, right? Even if it's just 7 or 8 episodes of schlocky action, that's okay. You can have a series, you could have a whole series like that. No one's gonna complain, I don't think, especially if it's Boba Fett or if it's some other cool character from Star Wars. But instead, it's just kind of I don't even know. That's the problem. I don't even know. I don't know why it's like that. I'm trying to figure out where to start here. Because I guess the big thing is I'm not entirely certain where the show went wrong the most. It went wrong in a lot of ways, but I don't know where it went wrong the most. I guess the best way to start is actually talking about where it went right and also where it went wrong. And that is, it sucks that the book of Boba Fett was at its best when it was being season 2.5 of The Mandalorian. You could tell there's a lot more passion and love where The Mandalorian is concerned and not where Boba Fett is concerned. And that's kind of a shame. What's the point of making a whole new series if the best parts of that series have nothing to do with that series? It's very baffling, I would almost argue. It's what I would argue. I would argue that it's completely baffling to make the best part of your series have nothing to do with the title character. And that on its own is incredibly frustrating. It made this a very frustrating show to watch. And mind you, I personally enjoyed the show. I didn't mind watching the show. Even the weirdest parts of the show didn't bother me that much. They were just weird. But at the same time, taken as a whole, the show is nothing short of an absolute disappointment. And it shouldn't be. I mean, a lot of people, for example, complain about, the flashbacks. I didn't mind the flashbacks. I loved the Tusken flashbacks. Because they were the parts of the show beyond The Mandalorian that actually had real, genuine pathos and, and ideas behind them. And I know what they were trying to do with them. They were showing Boba Fett with the Tusken Raiders to show a man who was kind of changing his perspective on life. Who was kind of who was, they're trying to show a man who was changing his perspective on life and trying to be more interesting, I guess one might say. He clearly was not because before he was, I'm trying to think what I'm trying to say. Because before he was a ruthless killer, right? Before he was a ruthless killer, he was a bounty hunter. At one point, Darth Vader tells him no disintegrations, right? Which means that Boba Fett has absolutely disintegrated targets that he wasn't supposed to disintegrate before. That's brutal, right? And showing Boba Fett escape to Sarlacc, get captured by the Tuskens, and learning about the Tuskens and what the Tuskens are about is obviously intended to show Boba Fett changing his perspective on things. And that's actually great, because it's supposed to give you the idea of what his motivation is for becoming daimyo of Tatooine, right? That's the point of these scenes. But for some godforsaken reason, they just never managed to bring it home. And I can't understand how. How does Boba Fett caring for the Tusken Raiders translate into Boba Fett caring for the people of Mos Espa, Mos Pelgo / Freetown, So I was like, how does that translate from Boba Fett caring about the Tuskens to caring about the general population of Tatooine? For some reason, they almost get there and never quite bring it home. And I think that is incredibly frustrating from someone who loves a good story, who wants to write good stories one day, maybe, possibly never. But for someone who like really appreciates well-written, well-considered stories, the fact that they never managed to bring that home is just really, really aggravating. It's just a weird thing. It's weird that they never managed to do that. I think part of the problem though is that in a lot of ways it's clear that whoever whoever was like doing like the writing for the show, not the broader writing, but I mean like the writer's room, because there's multiple people writing these things. It's clear that there was conflict in that writer's room, to the point where it feels like there's more than one writer's room and they're fighting each other for supremacy over this show. And I think that they're fighting, but they're fighting each other for supremacy of this show. Excuse me, and it shows. It shows in everything that happens in the show. Because on the one hand, you have actual cool elements like the Tuskens. You have elements like the idea of crime. Of like crime syndicates fighting each other for control and everything. Heck, you have the Rancor. The Rancor's pretty cool. I like the idea. But on the other, you have things like the Vespa gang and that mod subculture on Tatooine, which I don't get, by the way. Tatooine is a very rough and rugged place. There is literally a 0.0% chance that there are more than 5 people on Tatooine wealthy enough to actually afford to be modified with droid parts, cybernetic parts, on that planet. There's a 0.0% chance of that, Only the absolute wealthiest people would be able to do that, not people who are out of work. And yet that is precisely what we see, and I just don't understand why this entire gang exists. I mean, mind you, I actually didn't mind them all that much. Broadly speaking, they weren't that frustrating to see. But at the same time, why are they here? Why do they have these droid parts? Why are they colorful? What is with all this? Like, they're just on a planet like Tatooine, full of people who are destitute and poor and struggling to get water on a daily basis. I don't fully grasp why these people are here. They're just weird, and they are just kind of completely, totally out of place on this planet and in this series. If they had been on another planet like Coruscant or something, I'm totally fine with that. But on Tatooine, absolutely not. They just stand out like a sore thumb, and they are prime targets to get robbed. The idea that, that a bunch of desperate poor people wouldn't just mob these people and steal their and rip their cybernetic parts out of their bodies and sell them to Jawas or something is just comical. Hell, the idea that the Jawas want to steal these body parts off of them is kind of ridiculous. But they're just a weird part of the show, and the time taken for them could have easily been better spent establishing something more intelligent and more fitting for the setting. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, one of the other problems that the show suffers from is the fact that I just woke up, so I'm a little bit tired and a little bit scatterbrained. Is the fact that 2 whole episodes, 2 and a third even episodes of the series are actually just The Mandalorian, again, season 2.5. Which is bad for The Mandalorian, because events that should have occurred in The Mandalorian, like Grogu's choice, yet completely are shoved in another show. What happens if there are people who watch The Mandalorian, but didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett, and then come back to The Mandalorian season 3, whenever that comes out, but come back to The Mandalorian Season 3 only to discover, wait, what happened? Why is Grogu back? Why is the Mandalorian in a different ship? What's going on? What happened? Why are we going? Why is he, blah, 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 to put it simply. Why? Why? That's what people who are going to come back to the show are going to be like. They're going to be like, what happened? Why am I missing all this context? Which is an awful storytelling decision because it's going to hurt The Mandalorian, in addition to the fact that this kind of already hurt the Book of Boba Fett. I mean, mind you, episodes 5 and 6 were absolutely the best episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, but that's precisely because they were not the Book of Boba Fett. They were episodes in The Mandalorian, and they were cool, and they were awesome, and I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say. All I know is that the show has been hurt by it, and The Mandalorian is probably going to be hurt by it too. But I don't know. I just can't. I can't fathom the fact that the best episodes of this show were just not episodes of the show. I don't even want to talk about the episodes because it feels like the wrong discussion for what we're actually discussing here. I don't want to talk about episodes 5 and 6 because they have nothing to do with the show here. So we're going to skip them. We're going to talk about episode 7. And the finale was also disappointing. We have all this buildup. Oh, the Pikes are coming to Tatooine, and my frame rate's too low. Shoot. Sorry, I just noticed that. So I had to reduce the frame rate on OBS in order to stream a particular game, Phasmophobia. In order to stream Phasmophobia, I had to reduce the frame rates because Phasmophobia apparently doesn't play nice with OBS, and I forgot to change it. So now I've been streaming and recording everything at 30 FPS for like 2 weeks. Anyway, but episode 7 is a very mixed bag. Like the rest of the series, I didn't hate it, but I didn't really like it. There's just a lot of completely nonsensical decisions made in this finale that result in a completely underwhelming experience. First of all, they wanted to make it a war between criminal syndicates, right? But what does Boba Fett have? He has nothing. He has a bunch of punk kids, a couple of Gamorreans, I almost said a Chewbacca, a Wookiee, and about 20 people from an isolated settlement. And that's literally all he has. He has nothing else. And yet somehow manages to win against a group of people that outnumber him probably like 20 to 1. They have these massive battle droids, and somehow, despite the fact that Pikes could clearly outclass Boba Fett's forces in every way, shape, and form imaginable, somehow Boba Fett still wins. And I'm sorry, I understand letting your heroes win against long odds. But this is starting to happen between The Mandalorian and this show. This is starting to happen way too frequently, way too implausibly in Star Wars shows. Without a doubt, it's happening way too often in Star Wars shows that, people who are outmatched, outclassed, outgunned, and whatever you want, are incapable, who should not be able to win the fights they are in, are instead winning. And that's just so stupid. You know what I would have done if I was writing this episode? First of all, I would have made it so that, the people of Freetown show up. Vespa bikers, okay, sure, whatever. I would not give them pea shooters, though. I don't understand why they're shooting these tiny little blasters at people. It's like, just give them real blasters. Give them real chunky-looking blasters that look like they have power and look like they can actually shoot people down. But also make it so only like 2 of them survive or something. Like seriously, they clearly are not actually fighters. Make it so that they get massacred. Give it a little bit of oomph there. But make it so that Boba has an army. Make it so that he has hired mercenaries, first of all. Maybe he has like a battalion of Gamorrean guards or something instead of just 2 that get thrown off a cliff and die. You know, because I felt bad for them. Like why are these two guys, like, these poor guys just get thrown off a cliff and die? It's just like, come on, give them a little bit more there. You know, I like the Gamorreans. They were oddly endearing in their sort of blind loyalty. Not blind loyalty, but, you know, their loyalty to Fett was, you know, endearing, and then they just die like chumps, and I'm just like, that's me. You know, but also, like, I don't know. So we know that Boba Fett is a rapport with Tusken Raiders, and he can probably... Why didn't he just talk to more Tusken Raiders? Why didn't he find another couple of tribes? I mean, people in Mos Espa would be a little perturbed by Boba bringing in, you know, a couple of hundred Tusken Raiders to help him out in this war. But you know what? That could be a sign of real meaningful change on Tatooine. That would be kind of cool. You know? The Tuskens now have an advocate in Boba Fett. And now the Tuskens can be like, hey, we won't raid your settlements, with this guy in charge. Like, I think that'd be really cool, and they just never do something like that. That would be such a cool idea, and they just never do anything with it. Because there's 0% chance that Boba wouldn't be able to talk to more Tusken Raider tribes. I mean, I'm sure there are some that are more violent, and some that are more peaceful, like the one he was with. I'm absolutely certain that he'd be able to ally with some of them. And we just don't get that. But you got to give him more forces, first of all. Second of all, all right, the Rancor scene is cool, but I don't know. I just these battle droids, these giant battle droids, they shouldn't exist if they're not going to be a meaningful threat. The idea that these giant droids are running, around, and they don't immediately slaughter Boba Fett's entire fighting force is ridiculous. They destroyed they destroyed Freetown's speeder, which, by the way, gets taken out of the action way too soon. The fact that the cannon is destroyed instantly and then they're just using it as cover. What is that? Why is it not a more meaningful asset to Boba Fett's team? I just think that's so silly. And then it just gets blown up, and it's like, okay, so what are the people of Freetown going to do now? They don't have this really effective speeder all of a sudden. But I just don't... These droids should be a lot more threatening, should be causing a lot more damage. And this is, by the way, why Boba Fett needs an actual army on his side, by the way. For the record, just to let you know. It's so that, he can actually take casualties without making the situation look impossible instantly. That's part of the reason that he needs an army of some sort, so that he can take losses, And that's just not what happens. And then, of course, these droids move kind of slowly, yet for some weird reason, people, they can't outrun them. I'm like, why? Hello? Why is that a fit? Just run down a narrow alley. They can't chase you down narrow alleys. But no, they just run in the main streets that the droids can actually fit down. Okay, sure. Some real brilliant direction there, Robert Rodriguez. I'm just completely baffled by that decision. Just run down a alley. Anyway, but yeah, that's just. Sorry, this is hurting my brain. It's not as frustrating as, say, watching The Last Jedi over again and realizing that more and more is wrong, because not that much is wrong. But all the things that are wrong are very wrong. I think that's the best way to put it. The most of the things that are wrong in this series are very wrong. And in this finale in particular. The Rancor thing is cool, but I don't understand why, for example, when the Rancor is scared away by Cad Bane, why they start shooting at it when they know that it's Boba's Rancor. It's like, what are you doing? Stop! It's Boba's Rancor. If anything, it shouldn't have been Grogu who called him the Rancor. It should have been Boba. It should have been Bob. It should have been Bob A. Feet. By the way, bonus points to anyone who knows what I'm referencing when I say that. But it should have been Boba who called him the Rancor. Why does that have to be Grogu? But I mean, that part's cool. I'm actually totally fine with that. But I'm just a little bit on a lot of things that happen here. Again, I don't understand also why like 300 Pikes get defeated by 30 people. You know, the Pike Syndicate should have been a lot more threatening in that fight, and they just weren't. And because they had the numbers, they had the firepower, and yet somehow, and frankly, they should have had air support too. By the way, I don't understand why Boba didn't have air support. He has Slave One. Slave One would have made short work of those battle droids. And instead he just doesn't, because he should have had someone in Slave One flying air support for him. Because the Pikes should have a small fleet too, but they never bring any of their ships in. They don't bring any of their fighters or transports. They all come in on public transportation. Why? Hello? The fight should have been a lot more intense just for that reason alone. They should have both sides should have had some sort of air support. But they don't. They just don't. Sorry, I'm actually flabbergasted at how, like, I can enjoy the episode for what it is, but it should have been so much more, and that's what's really kind of grinding my gears right now, is the fact that a show and an episode specifically that should have been so much more, so much better, weren't. And I can't fathom it. I can't. So I'm going to stop rambling here, because I've already been talking for over 20 minutes, and I also have laundry to do. I'm doing laundry right now. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I most certainly didn't. I didn't want to have to tear apart the Book of Boba Fett. I didn't want to have to vent all my frustrations about the story, about the show, but that's the universe we live in, where Star Wars sucks, apparently. So thank you for watching again, and I will catch you when I talk about the Elf Queen of Shannara next. So until next time, everybody.